Hey folks, griffinlobster here. I've decided to come at you with this video, partially to test out this little setup I got going on since I can't do widescreen with my computer webcam anymore. I'm just using my phone here. So this is partially to test out my phone, see if it doesn't look like puke. It's partially to test it and partially to subvert your expectations. Because if you had been paying attention, which I don't know if you do that kind of thing, but I said that this was the list mania, and that after my my 4 top 10 of the year video, I was going to go on to do my top 20 games of the generation, and I'm still going to do that. But that list has proven to be more time-consuming than I originally thought. It's tough, especially when you're comparing such like titans of great game design against one another. And so I'm still working on that list, and it's taken longer. So I decided to do this. I got the idea from a viewer. I don't remember your username. I guess I'll put it right here right now. But this person suggested that I do this video, and I'm going to basically list a few games that didn't make my game of the year. Didn't make my top 10 list or even my honorable mentions, and just talk briefly about why. And it's just supposed to be a little bit, it's supposed to continue this discussion about games. Now, I don't think any of these games are particularly bad. Well, I don't know. At least not at least not overpoweringly bad. I mean, like if a game gets really terrible reviews, I just stay away from it. But I think most of these games had flaws that just didn't captivate me enough to where they just didn't make it onto the list. But I still want to like give them their fair due. And so these are a lot of this isn't every game of the year I played, but this will be a good little few. I think I'll do like maybe 5 or something like that. The first one that came to my mind when doing this was Beyond Two Souls, from the guys who made, I believe it's Quantic Dream? I hope that's right. Quantic Dream, who made Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain was my favorite games that year. I mean, it really, really stuck with me. The way it gave you a sense that you were crafting your own narrative with really believable characters, where choices felt like they actually meant something. Where if you made a mistake, I mean, that mistake is made for good, and that will trickle down out through the rest of the game. And it's that importance of choice that I hadn't really seen done and pulled off with very much finesse in a game before. I mean, there's always like these choices in games, but they were very black and white or uninteresting for any variety of reasons. In any case, Heavy Rain was the first one that really, really grabbed me and impressed me with its ability to do that. And so Beyond Two Souls was their next game, and it was obviously a lot of hype surrounding that game because it was their next game, their next what do they use, narrative experience? Interactive narrative. I think they don't like to use the word game, which I think is a little goofy. Whatever, each his own. And it also starred like Willem Dafoe and Ellen Page, and used their likeness in the game. There's a ton of dialogue, and that was a big part of it too, which I don't really care about. I mean, celebrities and games, I mean, it was kind of like how Jack Black was the voice. Anyway, I'm rambling. Bottom line, it just didn't grab me the same way, and it was actually one of my biggest disappointments of the year because of that. I just felt like, I don't know, it was definitely different. I think I preferred the personal, grounded narrative. I felt like that worked better for the choice, for the choice mechanic in Heavy Rain. I felt like that grounded story serviced that mechanic better than this like weird, like supernatural story. And it just didn't grab me. I didn't finish it. Maybe I missed something amazing in like the last 20 minutes or something that would have completely changed my mind. And that's too bad. I probably won't go back to it, but I was just really looking forward to it, and it just didn't deliver, in my opinion. But it's just my opinion, so don't take offense to it. So that was like the first game I thought of when I thought of games that didn't make the list. Next up, Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time, didn't make the list. I had never been a Sly Cooper fan beforehand. I know a lot of Sly Cooper fans didn't appreciate Thieves in Time. It was a different company. They said it didn't do the series justice or something. I was never a Sly fan, never got around to playing those games, but I was familiar with them, sort of stealth-based 3D platforming. And, I felt like when I played Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, I played a good little bit of it. I bet I got more than halfway halfway through. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I felt like I got more than halfway through. I just felt like it did everything merely okay. Like, it did stealth, and it did platforming, and it did mini games, and there were like vehicle segments and power-ups and stuff like that. All different things that were done capably, but not like shockingly well. I felt like the stealth was like okay. Maybe I'm just I'm just unfairly comparing it to sort of juggernaut stealth titles, like, I don't know, Metal Gear Solid or something, and it's not trying to be Metal Gear Solid, but I just felt like each disparate element just they didn't form a cohesive whole for me, and I just didn't feel connected to it. And maybe if I had been a fan of the series and known the characters, that would have seen me through the experience, and it could have made it onto the list. I just decided to grab the game because it was like really cheap. It was like $30 when it came out, which is just insane for a PS3 game. And, you know, I heard good stuff about the series, and it turned out to be merely okay. Sort of like, I don't know, bland rice pudding. Not that exciting. So that one didn't make the list. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon suffered big time. Didn't make the list. It suffered big time from sequel fatigue. I don't know if that's a good way to put it. But it was a sequel to a game I really enjoyed, right? And I think there's obviously been many examples of this throughout gaming history. The first one that just popped in my mind there was BioShock 2. I think, like BioShock 2, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is a technically good game. It's just that it couldn't quite reach the heights of its predecessor. Like, Luigi's Mansion, I think, is one of the more underrated games. Maybe not in the LP community. I know a lot of people like Luigi's Mansion in the LP community, but I think for gamers as a whole, Luigi's Mansion sort of felt like a weak launch title for the GameCube, and it sort of has stuck with this reputation it's had. But I really enjoyed Luigi's Mansion. I loved the feel of that game, and I also loved, like, it was one cohesive large house that you got to explore, obviously in parts, but you got to go back to previous areas. And Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon switched up the formula a little bit. There's multiple mansions that you kind of go at in stages with specific missions each time. And I don't know, it was too different for me to like it. And I think it's not necessarily a bad design choice. It's just one that since they changed it from the previous game, a game that I hold in rather high regard, just because they changed it, I just didn't like it very much. And so that sadly didn't make the list. Another one, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. I played that in a feverish session of about 2 days worth of gaming, and I beat it. I don't know. The game was like stupid as hell. I mean, like some of the dumbest, cheesiest ball writing I've maybe ever seen. And it was all just like, man, I don't give a crap about any of this. But it was just like fun, fast-paced, goofy action. And once you like got the block system down right, then it was okay. The block system, you actually have to flick the control stick in the direction of the incoming attack every time, and it's hard to get used to, and I don't think it's the good kind of difficult. Now, if you scale it back to, like, you know, the dumbass easy mode that they put on there, the condescending mode, then I think you don't have to do the little stick flick crap. But, you know, I wasn't going to go there. I was going to have the game insult me. And it's one of those games that also grades you at the end of every, like, battle or whatever. And every time you get a C, you feel depressed. Or heaven forbid a D. I don't think I got too many of those. Learning curve was pretty steep, though, early on. Like, I died a bunch early on until I figured out how to block. That's a key. Learning that stick flick shit. Also, the game is short. Super short. Unbelievably short. And, yeah, it's a decent action game. Really over-the-top, cool action segments. But stupid writing, not good block mechanic, and way too short. Just didn't make the list. I'm sorry if you guys love these games, by the way. Please, if you love these games, tell me why. Tell me why I'm wrong. I'd love to hear. Just a few more. Dead Space 3 didn't make the list. I love the first two Dead Space games. I love Dead Space 3 as well. I mean, I quite enjoyed it. Maybe not love, probably not love. Maybe merely liked. I don't know why I said loved. But Dead Space 1 and 2 I liked a lot. Dead Space probably would have made the top 10 if I had done a top 10 that year. Dead Space 2 was an honorable mention that year. but this year it just dropped off. And I think it's because with each progressive game, it's gotten less and less survival horror, which I think, you know, and I'm such a hypocrite because last year I thought it was okay that Resident Evil 6 went that way, went more toward these big stupid action sequences, and I forgave that game. But for some reason, I don't feel like forgiving Dead Space 3. I don't know, call me a hypocrite, but I felt. I felt like it had sort of betrayed itself because the first Dead Space was this very claustrophobic game that burdened you with its atmosphere and its enemy types, and the third game, I don't know, has jump scares and you sever limbs instead of doing headshots. I mean, I guess it just feels a little tired. I really liked the gun building mechanic. Basically, you can just take a bunch of pieces, a bunch of different guns, and make these and have these awesome uber guns. But that didn't really save the game from sort of the wear of being that third in the series. Plus, they try to incorporate co-op, and I didn't play it co-op, so maybe I missed a seriously important part of the experience. But I'm going to go ahead and take a shot in the dark here and say it probably wouldn't have impressed me that much. And so that game didn't make the list. What else didn't make the list? Forza Motorsport 5 didn't make the list. I picked that up with my Xbox One. It's a great racing game, and I don't usually get racing games. And in terms of like its graphical realism, I don't think I've played a game that looks as real as that one. I mean, obviously it's not highly varied in what it does. I mean, it's car interiors and car exteriors and tracks is like all you see. They kind of hide the character models mostly, or they're all wearing helmets because they just don't feel like spending time doing that, which I understand. I'm not like faulting them for that. And it feels very serene and clean and almost sterile. I like that they got the guys from Top Gear to do the voice. And I played quite a bit, and I enjoyed the rumble feature in the controller, how it actually rumbled from side, like sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Diametric rumbling, where if your left tires would be rumbling with what you were doing, the left side of your controller would rumble. I like that sort of feedback. But at the end of the day, I don't know. Racing games probably just aren't 100% my cup of tea. Speaking of tea, it's actually wassail, but whatever. You don't know. What else? One more. Thomas Was Alone didn't make it to the list. I don't know why. I felt like maybe it got a little bit, I felt like it really loved its own cutesiness a little bit, and I felt it was mostly cutesiness and like rectangles jumping around. And that's cool and all, but I don't know, it just didn't feel like that much of an event. I don't know what that means. It just felt pretty mundane. Just kind of mundane. I like the voiceover. I can't really say anything about the visuals because they're super simple, and that's like the point. But maybe like too simple for me to really enjoy. You're just controlling a bunch of rectangles, and you have to get them to the end of the level. Anyway, so there you go. Those are a list of, I don't know, what was that 7 games that didn't make the list? There were more games I played from 2013, but I don't want to go on forever. But those are just some games that didn't make the list, so you can get my motivation as to why they didn't make my list. And I don't think those games are inherently bad. Remember, all of this, my top 10, the top 20 of the generation to come, all a function of my flawed opinion. And so, if you feel like you want to hate me for it, well then, maybe you should sort out your priorities a little bit. But thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought of any of the games I mentioned, and stay tuned for more talking about games. List Mania is going to go on Friday, and then it's going to end on Monday, and then we'll be back to Rayman Legends and business as usual. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for all the positive feedback I got on my list, and thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.